The description of the mountain of the Lord, Isaiah 2, Micah 4. Now, in the second last video, I've talked about the visions of the mountain of God. And I have told you exactly what happened. And on that same day, on that first day, before I went to Faith Christian Church, and through Esther, I got more visions of the mountain of the Lord. This is the word that God gave me. Before being sent to Faith Christian Church Nalondo to fulfill the will and purpose of God, this is the word that God gave me. Jeremiah 1, verses 4, which says, "The word of the Lord came to me, saying, Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. I appointed you as a prophet to the nations." So this is when God revealed to me that everything that happened in my life was ordained. Both the good things and the bad things was ordained by the Lord. It had a purpose. And this word being said here, before you were born, I set you apart. I was being reminded of 2017, the year 2017, a dream that my fourth-born sister, Harriet, shared. And this dream, she said that she dreamt that we are 5 girls in our home. So the 4 of them, Harriet, Lynette, Regina, and our last born, Brenda, they were all together gathered except me. I was not with them. So this bothered her, and she told the dream to her own pastor. But the pastor interpreted the dream to her as follows. She asked her what kind of life I was living, and Harriet told her that I was not living a good, peaceful life. And that pastor explained and told to her that I am in dark captivity. But now, here, when the Lord gave me this Bible verse, the same way that I used to open the Bible and have the word of the Lord speaking to me, the revelations. So this day I opened, before being sent to FCC, I opened the Bible, and this is the verse that I was given. So the setting apart. Now the Spirit of God was reminding me of the 2017 dream that Harriet was given. So I was set apart from them since the beginning of my creation. Before, in the womb, I was set apart by the Lord Almighty in secrecy, being prepared, ordained happenings and purposes in order to fulfill the will of God. So before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. So that's how I was set apart from them. Though I am their blood, but God set me apart from them. I'm not like them. And the life they live, they have a peaceful life, successful life, marriages, but mine only. My life has been troubled much. But now God revealed to me that He set me apart. Everything that happened to my life, the good things and bad things, was ordained by the Lord. Before you were born, I set you apart. I appointed you as a prophet to the nations. So this was my prophetic calling being revealed to me by the Lord Almighty. 6. Alas, sovereign Lord, I said, I do not know how to speak. Alas, sovereign Lord, I said, I do not know how to speak. I am too young. So when the Lord was revealing this to me, this was in 2022. And this same year, 2022, I had just turned 35 years old. And to me, I saw myself as too young for the calling, like a child, not knowing anything, not able to stand for this calling that the Lord was giving me. And apart from that, I am a stammerer. I'm not a fluent speaker. So I used to ask God when He was giving me the revelation, how will I speak and communicate to people? Yet I am not a fluent speaker. I do stammer. So, but the Lord always nourished me. He prepared me. So when I was being to sent finally in FCC Faith Christian Nalondo, on this first day, apart from murmuring and saying that I do not know how to speak to the Lord and I am too young, on this first day when I entered Faith Christian Church, I entered when Differs Hatia, whom the mountain of the Lord will be built on his land. He was doing the teachings, the morning teachings. And when I entered, the word that was coming out of his mouth, he was teaching about the woman who had come to quench the thirst. Mwanamke aliyekuja kukata kiu. So this was just the Spirit of the God Almighty, just speaking and communicating. Because I had come to Faith Christian Church to quench that thirst of the mountain of the Lord. So I went in and kept silent and listened to the teachings that Differs Hatia was doing. And as I listened to everything that he was saying, I was able to realize through his speech that he too was not a fluent speaker. He was teaching, communicating but stammering, communicating but stammering. That is when the Lord Almighty, the Spirit of God, revealed to me that also I, being a stammerer, I can do the will of God, what He has sent me to do. And that is how I too gained much confidence in one spirit to fulfill the will of God. So, 7. But the Lord said to me, do not say I am too young. You must go to everyone I send you to and say whatever I command you. 8. Do not be afraid of them, for I am with you and will rescue you, declares the Lord. So that is how the Lord finally sent me, revealed to me each and every purpose of my life. 9. Then the Lord reached out his hand and touched my mouth and said to me, I have put my words in your mouth. See, today I appoint you over nations and kingdoms, to uproot and tear down, to destroy and overthrow, to build and to plant. And if you have been following these videos, I've said when I was introduced into this calling, the Lord prepared me. That is why in the prophecy of the woman president, a female leader in Kenya by Nalondo, he says that this woman is on a certain mountain. So he says, Nalondo, that this woman is on a certain mountain and the Lord has been grooming her. So this grooming that the Lord has been grooming her is the words of the Lord that the Lord put it in my mouth. So everything I say, it is not my own. but the words that the Lord has put in me from Him, because the Word is the Spirit of God. That is why in Revelation 22, it's written, the Spirit and the bride have become one. The Spirit and bride say, so they have become one body. And that is how the prophecy of the woman president in Kenya by Margaret Karani, she says that this woman sees through. She is filled with the Spirit of God, and she will straighten everything. So, see, today I appoint you over nations and kingdom to uproot and tear down, to destroy and overthrow, to build and to plant. So when I was being called, the revelation that came to me by God, it is the prophetic calling and cancellation of altars. And what is this cancellation of altars? This is the uprooting and tearing down, destroying and overthrow, building and planting. So this is the cancellation of altars that the Lord Almighty has appointed me to do. So we have also the altars that have been set above the word. An example is the altar that, due to the false doctrines, we have been made to believe that at resurrection, it is Jesus that is coming, the Jesus that was hanged on the cross. But this is an altar of the word that has been sent. So here I am as the woman president in Kenya, the bride at resurrection with a messianic call, the Jesus at resurrection, the transfiguration of Jesus, the signet of the Lord, cancelling that lie. So this is just an example of how I'm cancelling the altars, both the physical and the spiritual altars. Another example, we have been made to believe that we Africans are not Israelites. So we have the Israel nation that was just created by man, that in today, this lie, almost everyone believes in it. But here I am, the woman president, airing out the truth that we Africans, we are the true Israelites, the descendants of Jacob. And in Kenya is the ancient land of Canaan, the old Jerusalem, the city of David. So these are the part of the lie. That is why it is written, on this mountain the Lord will cancel out the lie. So here I am, the woman president, on the mountain of the Lord, cancelling out this lie, the tearing and uprooting, destroying and overthrowing, building and planting all the lies that have been made on human due to the false doctrines that we were born and found. That is why it is written in Isaiah chapter 28 verse 16. So this is what the sovereign Lord says. See, I lay a stone in Zion, a tested stone, a precious cornerstone for a sure foundation. The one who relies on it will never be stricken with panic. 17. I will make justice the measuring line, and righteousness the plumb line. Hail will sweep away your refuge, the lie. So, this mountain of the Lord, it is the stone in Zion, the tested cornerstone for the sure foundation. Which is the sure foundation? It will lay the foundation of the new heavens and earth, the transfiguration of the land for the new heavens and earth. So hail will sweep away your refuge, the lie. So we have dwelt in the lie, the old doctrine that is false. It has become our refuge. So on this mountain, the tested cornerstone, by me, this woman president, with this true word, preaching it is how the lie will be erased. So it continues and say, and water will overflow your hiding place. Your covenant with death will be annulled. Your agreement with the realm of the dead will not stand. When the overwhelming scourge sweeps by, you will be beaten down by it. So people are stone-hearted. They don't want to hear this true word because they have been made dead by the false doctrine. But by the terrace, that is how they will be made to hear the true word of the Lord Almighty. And on this mountain, it will erase out every lie. So, back to Jeremiah chapter 1, verse 17. Get yourself ready, stand up, and say to them whatever I command you. Do not be terrified by them, or I will terrify you before them. Today I have made you a fortified city, an iron pillar and a bronze wall to stand against the whole land, against the kings of Judah, its officials, its priests, and the people of the land. They will fight against you, but will not overcome you. For I am with you and will rescue you, declares the Lord. So, with the life that I have gone through, the hard life, the life of bitterness, this is how God made me into a fortified city. He was molding me to become an iron pillar and a bronze wall to stand against the people of the land, the whole world, with this messianic call, the Jesus call at resurrection. So, I am not doing everything just by my own might and spirit. They will try to fight me, opposing the word, the true word, because they have been fed and they are drunk with the false doctrine. They don't want to turn. They want to remain stiff-necked, yet they are fools of the word. But as much as they will try to fight me, they will never overcome me. That is why you find still same in the prophecy of the female leader in Kenya by Ian Lobu. He said that I saw her hand lifted, her right hand lifted. So I am on oath to only to fulfill what is of God and not man. So I have been made an iron pillar to stand against the rebellious people and the rebellious nations, the leaders of the world who own the world. These are the people that I have been sent to. We have also the leaders, the non-priests and prophets of the whole world. So these are the people that I have been sent to. And they will try to fight against me, but they will never overcome me because the Lord is with me. And no matter what they throw back at me, I am not meant to fall, but stand as an iron pillar until every purpose of the word of the Lord is fulfilled. So, this marked my new season under the heaven. Ecclesiastes 3. So, it was my time out of the circumstances that I had faced. It was my time out and my season out of those things that I had gone through, which were preparing me to be an iron pillar. So it was time for God telling me to stand up and fulfill His will and purpose as the bride of the Lord, as the woman president in Kenya, as the Jesus at resurrection. That is why He gave me the word, get yourself ready, stand up and say to them whatever I command you. So through these videos, I'm doing the will and purpose of the Lord Almighty. Now, the description of the temple of the Lord Almighty. So after some time, Joy Hatia, the last-born daughter of Diphas Hatia, the land on which the mountain of the Lord is to be established, she had a dream, and in this dream, she said that she was being shown in that sketch where the poles had been erected of the church. She was being shown that it was raised, that temple was raised, and it was standing on iron pillars, yani miti za chuma, but ilikuwa imeinuliwa. So this was the vision that Joy Hatia was being given, and she said that it was raised using stones, and it had the support standing on iron pillars za chuma. So it had a raised base, and this is the vision which remains true and holy. The vision that was given to Joy Hatia about the description of the temple, and it is found in Ezekiel chapter 41 verse 8, which says, I saw that the temple had a raised base all around. I saw that the temple had a raised base all round it, forming the foundation of the side rooms. So this was a true vision that God gave to Joy Hatia. And the description of this temple continues. And when you start, let me just start from Ezekiel chapter 40 verse 48 onwards, which reads the new temple. Which is this new temple? The mountain of God. So 48, he says, he brought me to the portico of the temple and measured the jambs of the portico. They were 5 cubits wide on either side. The width of the entrance was 14 cubits, and its projecting walls were 3 cubits wide on either side. 49. The portico was 20 cubits wide and 12 cubits from front to back. It was reached by a flight of stairs, and there were pillars on each side of the jambs. 41. Then the man brought me to the main hall and measured the jambs. The width of the jambs was 6 cubits on each side. So we are on Ezekiel 41, 2, verse 2. The entrance was 10 cubits wide, and the projecting walls on each side of it were 5 cubits wide. He also measured the main hall. It was 40 cubits long and 20 cubits wide. 3. Then he went into the inner sanctuary and measured the jambs of the entrance. Each was 6 cubits wide. The entrance was 6 cubits wide, and the projecting walls on each side of it were 7 cubits wide. 4. And he measured the length of the inner sanctuary. It was 20 cubits, and its width was 20 cubits across the end of the main hall. He said to me, this is the most holy place. 5. Then he measured the wall of the temple. It was 6 cubits thick, and each side room round the temple was 4 cubits wide. 6. The side rooms were on 3 levels, one above another, 30 on each level. There were ledges all round the wall of the temple to serve as supports for the side rooms, so that the supports were not inserted into the wall of the temple. 7. The side rooms all round the temple were wider at each successive level. The structure surrounding the temple was built in ascending stages. That is why you find in the description of the mountain of the Lord, it is written that it is exalted high above the hills, meaning that now that it will have a raised base, which is the foundation, the rooms of this temple will hang in the atmosphere. That is why it is called the mountain of the Lord. The rooms built in ascending stages. It will hang and be established like a mountain, tall, high on the atmosphere. Isaiah 2, the mountain of the Lord. In the last days, the mountain of the Lord's temple will be established as the highest of the mountains. It will be exalted above the hills, and all nations will stream to it. It will be established as the highest of the mountains, the rooms being hung on the atmosphere like a mountain. So, and also Differ's Hatia, she was also given the vision of this mountain. He testified and said, in that vision he was shown that it was huge, and the rooms hung on the air from where he stays up to the road. It was a big temple. This is why Joy was given the vision of a raised base made of stones, and the rooms was hanging in the sky. So the structure surrounding the temple was built in ascending stages, so that the rooms widened as one went upwards. The rooms widened as one went upwards. The hanging of the rooms in the sky, like a mountain. A stairway went up from the lowest floor to the top floor through the middle floor. Now we go back to the vision of Jacob when he lay his head, and it also described the vision of the mountain of the Lord when he saw angels ascending and descending up to heaven. What were they ascending to and descending? The entering and coming down from the mountain of the Lord, which will be exalted like a mountain high above the hills. People will be using staircases because it will be raised up high. So this vision was also given to Jacob. The description of this temple hanging on the sky like a mountain. So a stairway went up from the lowest floor to the top floor through the middle floor. 8. I saw that the temple had a raised base all round it, forming the foundation of the side rooms. Now, apart from this, I was being reminded in 2010, my stepsister, our firstborn, Irene Nafula Juma, she's an architecture. And there is a room in Masinde Muliro University in Kenya that in 2010 there was a building they were constructing, and somehow it had a raised base. I saw this building because that time Irene had told me to apply for a caterer's job at most. So when I went to hand over my application, this is when I saw that building, and she was the architecture of that building. And this is when the Lord Almighty revealed to me that she is the elect architecture of the mountain of the Lord. Now back to the vision that Esther was given, that the point of 5 I have already explained. The completeness of everything is at the point of 5, and I explained the point of 5. It is my mother having the 5 of us, the girls. So the family, the bloodline. So here we are as Irene, part of us. being the elect architecture of the mountain of the Lord. So 8, I saw that the temple had a raised base all round it, forming the foundation of the side rooms. It was the length of the road, 6 long cubits. 9, the outer wall of the side rooms was 5 cubits thick. The open area between the side rooms of the temple, 10, and the priest's rooms was 20 cubits wide all round the temple. 11, there were entrances to the side rooms from the open area, one on the north and another on the south, and the base adjoining the open area was 5 cubits wide all round. 12, the building facing the temple courtyard on the west side was 70 cubits wide. The wall of the building was 5 cubits thick all round, and its length was 90 cubits. 13. Then he measured the temple. It was 100 cubits long, and the temple courtyard and the building with its walls were also 100 cubits long. 14. The width of the temple courtyard on the east, including the front of the temple, was 100 cubits. 15. Then he measured the length of the building facing the courtyard at the rear of the temple, including its galleries on each side. It was 100 cubits. The main hall, the inner sanctuary, and the portico facing the court. 16, as well as the thresholds and the narrow windows and galleries round the 3 of them. Everything beyond and including the threshold was covered with wood. The floor, the wall up to the windows, and the windows were covered. 17. In the space above the outside of the entrance to the inner sanctuary, and on the walls at regular intervals, all round the inner and outer sanctuary, 18, were carved cherubim and palm trees. Palm trees alternated with cherubim. Each cherub had 2 faces, 19, the face of a human being towards the palm tree on one side, and the face of a lion towards the palm tree on the other. They were carved all round the whole temple. 20. From the floor to the area above the entrance, cherubim and palm trees were carved on the wall of the main hall. 21. The main hall had a rectangular door frame, and the one at the front of the most holy place was similar. 22. There was a wooden altar 3 cubits high and 2 cubits square. Its corners, its base, and its sides were of wood. The man said to me, "This is the table that is before the Lord." 23. Both the main hall and the most holy place had double doors. 24. Each door had 2 leaves, 2 hinged leaves for each door. 25. And on the doors of the main hall were carved cherubim and palm trees like those carved on the walls. And there was a wooden overhang on the front of the portico. 26. On the side walls of the portico were narrow windows with palm trees carved on each side. The side rooms of the temple also had overhangs. So Ezekiel chapter 42, which reads, "The room for the priests." Then the man led me northwards into the outer court and brought me to the rooms opposite the temple courtyard and opposite the outer wall on the north side. 2. The building whose door faced north was 100 cubits long and 50 cubits wide, both in the section 20 cubits from the inner court, and in the section opposite the pavement of the outer court, gallery faced gallery at the 3 levels. 4. In front of the rooms was an inner passageway, 10 cubits wide and 100 cubits long. Their doors were on the north. 5. Now the upper rooms were narrower, for the galleries took more space from them than from the rooms on the lower and middle floors of the building. 6. The rooms on the top floor had no pillars, as the courts had, so they were smaller in floor space than those on the lower and middle floors. 7. There was an outer wall parallel to the rooms and the outer court. It extended in front of the rooms for 50 cubits. 8. While the row of the rooms on the side next to the outer court was 50 cubits long, the row on the side nearest the sanctuary was 100 cubits long. 9. The lower rooms had an entrance on the east side, as one enters them from the outer court. 10. On the south side, along the length of the wall of the outer court, adjoining the temple courtyard and opposite the outer wall, were rooms, 11, with a passageway in front of them. These were like the rooms on the north. They had the same length and width, with similar exits and dimensions. Similar to the doorways on the north, 12, were the doorways of the rooms on the south. There was a doorway at the beginning of the passageway that was parallel to the corresponding wall extending eastward, by which one enters the rooms. 13. Then he said to me, the north and the south rooms facing the temple courtyard are the priest's rooms, where the priests who approach the Lord will eat the most holy offerings. There they will put the most holy offerings, the grain offerings, the sin offerings, and the guilt offerings, for the place is holy. That is why we have in Isaiah chapter 1:26, the word of the Lord saying, I will restore you to the days of old, your rulers as at the beginning. So not only are we being restored to the days of old, the kingship, having the king of the Lord, Raila Amolo Odinga, and the prince Samuel Barasa Lokibisi, but we are also being restored to the days of old, back to the grain offerings, the sin offerings, and the guilt offerings. So there they will be put the most holy offerings, the grain offerings, the sin offerings, and the guilt offerings, for the place is holy. 14. Once the priests enter the holy precincts, they are not to go into the outer courts until they leave behind the garments in which they minister, for these are holy. They are to put on other clothes before they go near the places that are for the people. 15. When he had finished measuring what was inside the temple area, he led me out by the east gate and measured the area all around. 16. He measured the east side with the measuring rod. It was 500 cubits. 17. He measured the north side. It was 500 cubits by the measuring rod. 18. He measured the south side. It was 500 cubits by the measuring rod. 19. Then he turned to the west side and measured. It was 500 cubits by the measuring rod. 20. So he measured the area on all 4 sides. It had a wall round it, 500 cubits long and 500 cubits wide, to separate the holy from the common. So this is the description of the mountain of God. So that is why it is written in Ezekiel chapter 43, verse 10, Son of man. I have already told you what the Son of Man means. It means the heir of man. And here I am, the woman president in Kenya, the bride at resurrection, the signet of the Lord, being given authority as the heir of man, describing the temple to you. Which temple is this? The mountain of God, Isaiah 2, Micah 4. So, Son of man, describe the temple to the people of Israel, that they may be ashamed of their sins. Let them consider its perfection. 11. And if they are ashamed of all they have done, make known to them the design of the temple, its arrangement, its exits and entrances, its whole design, and all its regulations and laws. Write this down before them, so that they may be faithful to its design and follow all its regulation. 12. This is the law of the temple. All the surrounding area on top of the mountain will be most holy. Which top of this mountain? The mountain of the Lord, having its room hanging on the sky as the highest of the mountains. So this is the law of the temple. All the surrounding area on top of the mountain will be most holy. Such is the law of the temple. So here I have described to you the mountain of the Lord, the regulations, everything here on the book of Ezekiel. So I'm still continuing reading about everything about this mountain of God description. Ezekiel chapter 43, verse 13, which reads, the great altar restored. These are the measurements of the altar in long cubits, that cubit being a cubit and a hand breadth. Its gutter is a cubit deep and a cubit wide, with a curve of 1 span around the edge. And this is the height of the altar. From the gutter on the ground up to the lower ledge that goes round the altar, it is 2 cubits high, and the ledge is a cubit wide. From this lower ledge to the upper ledge that goes round the altar, it is 4 cubits high, and that ledge is also a cubit wide. 15. Above that, the altar height is 4 cubits high, and 4 horns project upwards from the height. 16. The altar height is square, 12 cubits long and 12 cubits wide. 17. The upper ledge also is square, 14 cubits long and 14 cubits wide. All round the altar is a gutter of 1 cubit with a curve of half a cubit. The steps of the altar face east. 18. Then he said to me, Son of man, this is what the sovereign Lord says. This will be the regulations for sacrificing burnt offerings and splashing blood against the altar when it is built. 19. You are to give a young bull as a sin offering to the Levitical priests of the family of Zadok, who come near to minister before me, declares the sovereign Lord. 20. You are to take some of its blood and put it on the four horns of the altar, and on the four corners of the upper ledge, and all round the rim, and so purify the altar, and make atonement for it. 21. You are to take the bull for the sin offering, and burn it in the designated part of the temple area outside the sanctuary. So that is how we are being restored to the days of old, to the sin offerings, the grain offerings, and guilt offerings, as per the regulations of the Lord Almighty. 22. On the second day, you are to offer a male goat without defect for a sin offering, and the altar is to be purified as it was purified with the bull. 23. When you have finished purifying it, you are to offer a young bull and a ram from the flock, both without defect. 24. You are to offer them before the Lord, and the priests are to sprinkle salt on them and make sacrifice. 24. You are to offer them before the Lord, and the priests are to sprinkle salt on them and sacrifice them as a burnt offering to the Lord. 25. For 7 days you are to provide a male goat daily for a sin offering. You are also to provide a young bull and a ram from the flock, both without defect. 26. For 7 days they are to make atonement for the altar and cleanse it. Thus they will dedicate it. 27. At the end of these days, from the 8th day on, the priests are to present your burnt offerings and fellowship offerings on the altar. Then I will accept you, declares the sovereign Lord. Now, a continuation, Ezekiel chapter 44, the priesthood restored. And remember, the priesthood belonged to the Levites. That is why I have explained to you that David care a teso. The tesos are the Levites. The priesthood restored. So, with him, the pastor at Faith Christian Church, which is the mountain of the Lord, David care a teso, a Levite. This is how the priesthood is being restored. The priesthood restored. 44. Then the man brought me back to the outer gate of the sanctuary, the one facing east, and it was shut. 2. The Lord said to me, this gate is to remain shut. It must not be opened. No one may enter through it. It is to remain shut because the Lord, the God of Israel, has entered through it. 3. How will God enter through it? We have in Ezekiel 43 the explanation of God's glory returning to the temple. So this gate is to remain shut. It must not be opened. No one may enter through it. It is to remain shut because the Lord, the God of Israel, has entered through it. It is to remain shut because the Lord, the God of Israel, has entered through it. So I'm reading about the God's glory returning to the temple, how the Lord has entered through it. That is Ezekiel 43. Then the man brought me to the gate facing east, and I saw the glory of the God of Israel coming from the east. His voice was like the roar of rushing waters, and the land was radiant with his glory. 3. The vision I saw was like the vision I had seen when he came to destroy the city, and like the visions I had seen by the river Kebar, and I fell face down. For the glory of the Lord entered the temple through the gate facing it. The glory of the Lord entered the temple through the gate facing east. Then the Spirit lifted me up and brought me into the inner court, and the glory of the Lord filled the temple. So, in Ezekiel 44, when it is written, this gate is to remain shut, it must not be opened, no one may enter through it. It is to remain shut because the Lord, the God of Israel, has entered through it. And here we find in Ezekiel chapter 43, God's glory returning to the temple. Verse 4, it says, the glory of the Lord entered the temple through the gate facing it east. So this is how the God of Israel says that that door remains shut because he entered through the temple. So I continue Ezekiel 44 verse 3. The prince himself is the only one who may sit inside the gateway to eat in the presence of the Lord. So this is the first duty of the prince of the Lord, the elect prince of the Lord, Samuel Barasa Lukibisi. So the prince himself is the only one who may sit inside the gateway to eat in the presence of the Lord. He is to enter by way of the portico of the gateway and go out the same way. That is why it is written in Hosea chapter 3 verse 4, for the Israelites will live for many days without king or prince, without sacrifice or sacred stones, without ephod or household gods. 5. Afterwards, the Israelites will return and seek the Lord their God and David their king. They will come trembling to the Lord and to his blessings in the last days. So that is how we are being restored to the days of old. The rulers, what guides us as in the beginning. So we have the king and prince, and we have the offerings and the festivals of the Lord. That is why it is written, they will live for many days without king or prince, without sacrifice or sacred stones, without ephod or household. So that is how we will be restored to the days of old through this temple. So that is the first duty of the prince. He himself is the only one who may sit inside the gateway to eat in the presence of the Lord. He is to enter by way of the portico of the gateway and go out the same way. 4. I continuation of Ezekiel 44:4. Then the man brought me by way of the north gate to the front of the temple. I looked and saw the glory of the Lord filling the temple of the Lord, and I fell face down. 5. The Lord said to me, Son of man, look carefully, listen closely, and give attention to everything I tell you concerning all the regulations and instructions regarding the temple of the Lord. So the Lord said to me, Son of man, look carefully, listen closely, and give attention to everything I tell you concerning all the regulations and instructions regarding the temple of the Lord. So these are the regulations that has to be observed on this temple of the Lord. Give attention to the entrance to the temple and all the exits of the sanctuary. That is why it is written in 43, Son of man, describe the temple to the people of Israel that they may be ashamed of their sins. Let them consider its perfection. 11. And if they are ashamed of all they have done, make known to them the design of the temple, its arrangement, its exits and entrances, its whole design, and all its regulations and laws. So give back to Ezekiel 44. Give attention to the entrance to the temple and all the exits of the sanctuary. So this is a must consideration, not to joke around with them. Give attention to the entrance to the temple and all the exits of the sanctuary. 6. Say to the rebellious Israel, this is what the sovereign Lord says. Enough of your detestable practices, people of Israel. 7. In addition to all your other detestable practices, you brought foreigners uncircumcised in heart and flesh into my sanctuary, desecrating my temple while you offered me food, fat and blood, and you broke my covenant. So who are these foreigners? The foreigners are the other nations who are not of the tribe of Israel. The other nations who are not descendants of Jacob. Like we have the Edomites, that is Esau, the descendants of Esau. We have the Cushites. We have the Ammon and Moab, the descendants of Lot. So these are the foreigners. And the Lord says they are uncircumcised in heart, meaning that they have stone hearts. They are not broken in spirit. They are not humble before the Lord. They have stone hearts, rebellious against the Lord. So these are the other nations that are not of Israel, the foreigners that are uncircumcised in heart. They are full of idol worship. 8. Instead of carrying out your duty in regard to my holy things, you put others in charge of my sanctuary. So we ended up defiling the sanctuary of the Lord, making it smell bad, making it filthy, through allowing these foreigners to come into the sanctuary of the Lord Almighty. So instead of carrying out your duty in regard to my holy things, you put others in charge of my sanctuary. 9. This is what the sovereign Lord says. No foreigner uncircumcised in heart and flesh is to enter my sanctuary, not even the foreigners who live among the Israelites. So that is why it's written in Revelation chapter 21 verse 27 that, but there shall by no means enter it anything that defiles or causes an abomination or a lie, but only those who are written in the Lamb's book of life. So anything that is defiled, anything that is uncircumcised in heart, will not enter the temple of the Lord, will not enter the new heavens and earth, the new Jerusalem. That is why you find there is the separation of the sheep and goats. The sheep will be exalted to glory, to be the heirs of the heavenly kingdom, but the others will be thrown into the lake of fire. So nothing unholy, nothing undefiled will enter the temple of the Lord. So this is what the sovereign Lord says: no foreigner uncircumcised in heart and flesh is to enter my sanctuary, not even the foreigners who live among the Israelites. So only the elect, the chosen, the called will enter the temple of the Lord, the new heavens and earth. 10. The Levites who went far from me when Israel went astray, and who wandered from me after their idols, must bear the consequences of their sin. 11. They may serve in my sanctuary, having charge of the gates of the temple, and serving in it. They may slaughter the burnt offerings and sacrifices for the people, and stand before the people and serve them. 12. But because they served them in the presence of their idols, and made the people of Israel fall into sin, therefore I have sworn with uplifted hand that they must bear the consequences of their sin, declares the sovereign Lord. 13. They are not to come near to serve me as priests, or come near any of my holy things or my most holy offerings. They must bear the shame of their detestable practices. 14. And I will appoint them to guard the temple for all the work that is to be done in it. 15. But the Levitical priests, who are descendants of Zadok, and who guarded my sanctuary when the Israelites went astray from me, are to come near to minister before me. They are to stand before me to offer sacrifices of fat and blood, declares the sovereign Lord. 16. They alone are to enter my sanctuary. They alone are to come near my table to minister before me and serve me as gods. 17. When they enter the gates of the inner court, they are to wear linen clothes. They must not wear any woolen garment while ministering at the gates of the inner court or inside the temple. 18. They are to wear linen turbans on their heads and linen undergarments round their waists. They must not wear anything that makes them perspire. 19. When they go out into the outer court, where the people are, they are to take off the clothes they have been ministering in and leave them in the sacred rooms, and put on other clothes, so that the people are not consecrated through contact with their garments. 20. They must not shave their heads or let their hair grow long, but they are to keep the hair of their heads trimmed. 21. No priest is to drink wine when he enters the inner court. 22. They must not marry widows or divorced women. They may marry only virgins of Israelites' descent or widows of priests. 23. They are to teach my people the difference between the holy and the common, and show them how to distinguish between the unclean and clean. 24. In any dispute, the priests are to serve as judges and decide it according to my ordinances. They are to keep my laws and my decrees for all my appointed festivals, and they are to keep my Sabbaths holy. 25. A priest must not defile himself by going near a dead person. However, If the dead person was his father or mother, son or daughter, brother or unmarried sister, then he may defile himself. 26. After he is cleansed, he must wait 7 days. 27. On the day he goes into the inner court of the sanctuary to minister in the sanctuary, he is to offer a sin offering for himself, declares the sovereign Lord. 28. I am to be the only inheritance the priests have. You are to give them no possession in Israel. I will be their possession. 29. They will eat the grain offerings, the sin offerings, and the guilt offerings, and everything in Israel devoted to the Lord will belong to them. 30. The best of all the first fruits and of all your special gifts will belong to the priests. You are to give them the first portion of your ground meal, so that a blessing may rest on your household. 31. The priest must not eat anything, whether bird or animal, found dead or torn by wild animals. Still about the description of the mountain of God, the temple. The tsunami that is coming at the Kenyan coast, the sea will dry up. But on this mountain of God, on this new temple, a new river will arise from this temple. And this is found in Ezekiel chapter 47. The new river that will arise from the temple of God, the mountain of the Lord. So this is part of the description of the mountain of God. So Ezekiel 47, the river from the temple. The man brought me back to the entrance to the temple, and I saw, he saw, meaning it was a vision, and I saw water coming out from under the threshold of the temple towards the east, in brackets, for the temple faced east. The water was coming down from under the south side of the temple, south of the altar. 2. He then brought me out through the north gate and led me round the outside to the outer gate facing east, and the water was trickling from the south side. 3. As the man went eastward with a measuring line in his hand, he measured off 1,000 cubits, and then led me through water that was ankle deep. 4. He measured off another 1,000 cubits, and led me through water that was knee deep. He measured off another 1,000, and led me through water that was up to the waist. 5. He measured off another 1,000, but now it was a river that I could not cross, because the water had risen and was deep enough to swim in, a river that no one could cross. 6. He asked me, Son of man, do you see this? Then he led me back to the bank of the river. 7. When I arrived there, I saw a great number of trees on each side of the river. He said to me, this is 8, he said to me, this water flows towards the eastern region and goes down into the Araba, where it enters the Dead Sea. When it empties into the sea, the salty water there becomes fresh. 9. Swarms of living creatures will live wherever the river flows. There will be large numbers of fish, because this water flows there and makes the salt water fresh. So where the river flows, everything will live. 10. Fishermen will stand along the shore, from En-Gedi to En-Eglaim. There will be places for spreading nets. The fish will be of many kinds, like the fish of the Mediterranean Sea. 11. But the swamps and marshes will not become fresh. They will be left for salt. 12. Fruit trees of all kinds will grow on both banks of the river. Their leaves will not wither, nor will their fruit fail. Every month they will bear fruit, because the water from the sanctuary flows to them. Their fruit will serve for food and their leaves for healing. So this is part of the description. A river will arise from the temple, the land of overflowing milk and honey. So when all this finally happens, the temple area will be restored. The restoration of the temple area, coming back to life. It was dead, but now it will be coming back to life. This is Ezekiel chapter 40, the temple area restored. In the 25th year of our exile, at the beginning of the year, on the 10th of the month, in the 14th year after the fall of the city, on that very day, the hand of the Lord was on me, and he took me there. He took him there. So he was in the spirit. 2. In visions of God, he took me to the land of Israel and set me on a very high mountain. Which is this mountain? The mountain of the Lord. Isaiah 2, Micah 4. So in visions of God, he took me to the land of Israel and set me on a very high mountain, Nalondo to Mabanga, the ancient land of Canaan, Kenya, the mountains of Israel. So, and set me on a very high mountain, on whose south side were some buildings that looked like a city. 3. He took me there, and I saw a man whose appearance was like bronze. He was standing in the gateway with a linen cord and a measuring rod in his hand. 4. The man said to me, Son of man, look carefully and listen closely and pay attention to everything I am going to show you, for that is why you have been brought here. Tell the people of Israel everything you see. So the visions, the description, and the laws and the regulations of the mountain of God, the temple, was given to Ezekiel, prophet Ezekiel. So the visions were given to him, but it was meant for the Son of Man, to be fulfilled by the Son of Man, the heir of man. I, the woman president in Kenya. So the east gate to the outer court. It is a headline. The east gate to the outer court. 5. I saw a vision. I saw a wall completely surrounding the temple area. The length of the measuring rod in the man's hand was 6 long cubits, each of which was a cubit and a handbreadth. He measured the wall. It was 1 measuring rod thick and 1 rod high. 6. Then he went to the east gate. He climbed its steps and measured the threshold of the gate. It was 1 rod deep. 7. The alcoves for the guards were 1 rod long and 1 rod wide, and the projecting walls between the alcoves were 5 cubits thick, and the threshold of the gate next to the portico facing the temple was 1 rod deep. 8. Then he measured the portico of the gateway. 9. It was 8 cubits deep, and its jambs were 2 cubits thick. The portico of the gateway faced the temple. 10. Inside the east gate were 3 alcoves on each side. The 3 had the same measurements, and the faces of the projecting walls on each side had the same measurements. 11. Then he measured the width of the entrance of the gateway. It was 10 cubits, and its length was 13 cubits. 12. In front of each alcove was a wall 1 cubit high, and the alcoves were 6 cubits square. 13. Then he measured the gateway from the top of the rear wall of one alcove to the top of the opposite one. The distance was 25 cubits from one parapet opening to the opposite one. 14. He measured along the faces of the projecting walls all around the inside of the gateway, 60 cubits. The measurement was up to the portico facing the courtyard. 15. The distance from the entrance of the gateway to the far end of its portico was 50 cubits. 16. The alcoves and the projecting walls inside the gateway were surmounted by narrow parapet openings all round, as was the portico. The openings all round faced inward. The faces of the projecting walls were decorated with palm trees. Another headline: the outer court. 17. Then he brought me into the outer court. There I saw the visions. There I saw some rooms and a pavement that had been constructed all round the court. There were 30 rooms along the pavement. 18. It abutted the sides of the gateways and was as wide as they were long. This was the lower pavement. 19. Then he measured the distance from the inside of the lower gateway to the outside of the inner court. It was 100 cubits on the east side as well as the north side. Another headline: the north gate. 20. Then he measured the length and width of the north gate leading into the outer court. 21. Its alcoves, 3 on each side, its projecting walls and its portico had the same measurements as those of the first gateway. It was 50 cubits long and 25 cubits wide. 22. Its openings, its portico, and its palm tree decorations had the same measurements as those of the gate facing east. 7 steps led up to it, with its portico opposite them. 23. There was a gate to the inner court facing the north gate, just as there was on the east. He measured from one gate to the opposite one. It was 100 cubits. A headline: the south gate. 24. Then he led me to the south side, and I saw the south gate. He saw the visions of the south gate. He measured its jambs and its portico. and they had the same measurements as the others. 25. The gateway and its portico had narrow openings all round, like the openings of the others. It was 50 cubits long and 25 cubits wide. 26. 7 steps led up to it, with its portico opposite them. It had palm tree decorations on the faces of the projecting walls on each side. 27. The inner court also had a gate facing south, and he measured from this gate to the outer gate on the south side. It was 100 cubits. Another headline, the gates to the inner court. 28. Then he brought me into the inner court through the south gate, and he measured the south gate. It had the same measurements as the others. 29. Its alcoves, its projecting walls, and its portico had the same measurements as the others. The gateway and its portico had openings all round. It was 50 cubits long and 25 cubits wide. 30. In brackets, the porticos of the gateways around the inner court were 25 cubits wide and 5 cubits deep, the end of the bracket. 31. Its portico faced the outer court. Palm trees decorated its jambs, and 8 steps led up to it. 32. Then he brought me to the inner court on the east side, and he measured the gateway. It had the same measurements as the others. 33. Its alcove, its projecting walls, and its portico had the same measurements as the others. The gateway and its portico had openings all around. It was 50 cubits long and 25 cubits wide. 34. Its portico faced the outer court. Palm trees decorated the jambs on either side, and 8 steps led up to it. 35. Then he brought me to the north gate and measured it. It had the same measurements as the others. 36. As did its alcoves, its projecting walls, and its portico, and it had openings all round. It was 50 cubits long and 25 cubits wide. 37. Its portico faced the outer court. Palm trees decorated the jambs on either side, and 8 steps led up to it. Another headline, the rooms for preparing sacrifices, the burnt offerings. 38. A room with a doorway was by the portico in each of the inner gateways, where the burnt offerings were washed. 39. In the portico of the gateway were 2 tables on each side, on which the burnt offerings, sin offerings, and guilt offerings were slaughtered. 40. By the outside wall of the portico of the gateway, near the steps at the entrance of the north gateway, were 2 tables, and on the other side of the steps were 2 tables. 41. So there were 4 tables on one side of the gateway, and 4 on the others, 8 tables in all, on which the sacrifices were slaughtered. 42. There were also 4 tables of dressed stone for the burnt offerings, each a cubit and a half long, a cubit and a half wide, and a cubit high. On them were placed the utensils for slaughtering the burnt offerings and the other sacrifices. 43. And double-pronged hooks, each a handbreadth long, were attached to the wall all round. The tables were for the flesh of the offerings. Another headline, the last one, the rooms for the priests. 44. Outside the inner gate, within the inner court, were 2 rooms, one at the side of the north gate and facing south, and another at the side of the south gate and facing north. 45. He said to me, the room facing south is for the priests who guard the temple. 46. And the room facing north is for the priests who guard the altar. These are the sons of Zadok, who are the only Levites who may draw near to the Lord to minister before him. 47. Then he measured the court. It was square, 100 cubits long and 100 cubits wide, and the altar was in front of the temple. So here I am the bride, the woman president in Kenya, the signet of the Lord, the heir of man of the heavenly kingdom. I have been made a son. So here I have described everything about the temple. Now, the rewards of the elect all are with me, the woman president, because I am the signet. I have been given the authority. And what are these rewards? These rewards are the specific duties about the temple that have been given to the elect of the Lord. Some will be in charge of the furnitures. Some will be in charge of the doors. Some will be in charge of the utensils and the furnishing to be used in the temple. So their rewards are the duties for the elect, for the heirs in the heavenly kingdom of the Lord Almighty. That is why it is written in Revelation chapter 22, verse 12, and behold, I am coming quickly, and my reward is with me, to give to everyone according to his work. So this reward of the people, of the elect, lies within me, the woman president, the word of the Lord. And these rewards are the duties given to the elect regarding the temple of the Lord, the mountain of the God Almighty, and the heavenly kingdom on earth. So the duties given to the elect, these are the rewards. Because I am the signet of the Lord, and I have been given authority as the signet of the Lord, I, the woman president. So 13, I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end, the first and the last. So why is God saying he is the Alpha and Omega? Because in the beginning was the Word. And this Word remained unknown to man, unknown to human. They interpreted the Word with their own wisdom, the earthly wisdom and the wisdom of books, not by the wisdom of God. And since this Word, which is the begotten Son, because it was there in the beginning with God, and since it was born by God himself, his own spirit, that is why it is called the begotten Son. So since it was there in the beginning and it remained unknown, and during these last days, the end times, through I, the woman president, preaching the true word, that is why it is written, but first the word must be preached to the whole world. So I am preaching this word because many understood that before the end times, this whole world must know the word. That's what people understood. It was an altar that was set. But this statement only made only during the end time will the word be preached to all the nations of the earth. And here I am, the woman president, preaching the word. So since this word, the begotten son, Jesus is not the begotten son. He was born later by Virgin Mary. He was not there in the beginning, but only the word was there in the beginning. Through the word was everything made. When God said, let there be light, and there was light, it was the word, not Jesus. We who have been made to believe that Jesus is the begotten son. Jesus was only the way to resurrection, the way to this word fulfillment. So here I am, the bride, at the last days, the end times, preaching the true word, telling the true word, the word of God, his own spirit. That is how God says he is the Alpha and Omega. He was the beginning with the word, and he is marking the end with the word, being made known to the whole world by I, the woman president. And this word is the mark that will make people gather, make people to be sons, to be heirs of the heavenly kingdom. That is why God says, I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end, the first and the last. So he was first with the word, and he is marking the last with the word, his own glory. Through I, the bride, he has put his words in me, his own spirit. That is why the spirit and bride have become one. So blessed are those who do his commandments, that they may have the right to the tree of life, and may enter through the gates into the city. So, through I, the bride, a Kenyan, Kenya will become the tree of life, having the mountain of the Lord, having the city of God, the ancient land of Canaan, the land of promise, and having the King of the Lord Almighty, Raila Amolo Odinga, who will rule in the image and likeness of the Lord. That is how Kenya will become the tree of life. 15. But outside are dogs and sorcerers and sexually immoral and murderers and idolaters and whoever loves and practices a lie. 16. So I, Jesus, have sent my angel to testify to you these things in the churches. So I, Jesus, have sent. Who has Jesus sent? I, the woman president, in the Holy Trinity of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, marking the fulfillment of the word, the marriage at resurrection, the fulfillment of the word. So that is why the transfiguration remained a vision of end times, a vision of resurrection. That is why Jesus said, "Seal until the time I have risen from the dead." Meaning that at resurrection, it is not Jesus himself, the Son of God, who died and was crucified, but a transfigured Jesus. Who is this? The woman president in Kenya. I, the bride, the Jesus at resurrection, the transfigured Jesus. So I, Jesus, have sent my angel to testify to you these things in the churches. Who are the churches? You as a person, you are the first church. When we gather, it is just a building called the church. But the first church, it is just you as a person, the soul, the temple of God. I am the root and the offspring of David, the bright and morning star. And if you have been following my channel, Isaiah 11, the branch of Jesse. Here I am, the woman president, the branch of Jesse, the lineage of David, the blood of Jesus, the lineage of Jesus. 17. And the Spirit and the bride say, Come. And let him who hears say, Come. And let him who thirsts come. Whoever desires, let him take the waters of life freely. So the Spirit and the bride. Here I am the bride, the woman president in Kenya, the female leader in Kenya, and the Spirit, which is the Spirit of God. This word is the Spirit of God. It was born by God in the beginning. That is why you find in the woman president prophecy by Mary Karani, she says this woman will be filled with the Spirit of God and she will straighten everything. So the Spirit and the bride say, come. Come where? To the new heavens and earth, to the new life, the everlasting life, in the new city, in the new Jerusalem, Nalondo to Mabanga, the ancient land of Canaan, Canaan to Bethlehem, the land of overflowing milk and honey, the anointed land. 18. For I testify to everyone who hears the word of the prophecy of this book. If anyone adds to these things, God will add to him the plagues that are written in this book. The words of the prophecy of this book. Here I am fulfilling the words of the prophecy of this book that was given to John. 19. And if anyone takes away from the words of the book of this prophecy, God shall take away his part from the book of life, from the holy city, and from the things which are written in this book. So with me is the judgment book and the book of life. And with this word, it is the key to the holy city, the new Jerusalem. 20. He who testifies to these things say, surely I am coming quickly. Amen. Even so, come, Lord Jesus. 21. The grace of our Lord Jesus Christ be with you all. Amen. I am still coming in the clouds. Not meaning that up in the sky, but the clouds meaning being surrounded by the elect, not just alone. Those are the clouds. And we have the spiritual cloud, being clothed in the might and spirit of God. So I am coming quickly to fulfill everything that the Lord has groomed me. So be blessed and repent and return back to the Lord to be a heir in the heavenly kingdom.